We're a podcast about the future, about what's going to happen in this league. We're a podcast about the past, about what's happened in this league. And we're a podcast about the now. And one of those great times this episode is that we are able to kind of encompass all three at the same time. We are talking about some forecasts that we're going to make and that the Lions made in his data driven approach, which continues to improve. And we're wildly grateful for just having some kind of reference point. And again, I think one of those unique things about the league that we can pull something like that. Myself, Eagles, and Panthers will go through the divisions, pick who we think we're going to win, who's going to be wild card, and what goes from there, and get some hot takes flowing. We'll talk about some trades that have happened in the past. And I think as we're going through our divisional projections, we'll be able to pick out one thing that a team in that division needs to do right now. That whether it's a trade, whether it's a move, whether it's a shift in philosophy, whether it's a wake up and actually do something, it can be part of the hot take. It can be part of a different take. But we're really going to go for the past, present, and future as part of this podcast. So, gentlemen, thank you for sharing all three with me.
It is great to be here. Why do I feel like the take of wake up and do something is going to be more than one time tonight?
Yeah. If the meme of the stick figure with a stick trying to poke at somebody was something we could actually have, or if I could title the podcast that, I think that's what I would have done. But Forecast City is pretty good too because, like I said, we've got some cool stuff that people have done here. Again, definite improvement off of last year and definite room for improvement. I think Lions has been really great at accepting a lot of that feedback and trying to improve things. But um, just in terms of where it's placing teams right now, it is predicting a three-peat for Buccaneers, another finals loss for Bill, and a couple of other pretty hot takes. Uh, just kind of going through here. Um, thing that probably surprised me the most, and I think it was the min rating in there. We've only got the only two teams that it's saying has a chance to win it all are Buccaneers and Broncos. But yet we've got four other teams that have a chance to make the finals and lose. That kind of surprised me that we didn't have a few more ones making their way down into that top 10. What do you guys think?
Uh, yes. So I have one of those teams that has been projected to potentially lose in the finals, so I don't want to sound too biased, but I was a little shocked.
That you thought you were that good, or you thought that you just that's as far as you would go?
Uh, Shocked that it was that both of those teams were above us, above everybody by such a drastic amount.
It's true. And then max ratings. Apparently, Buccaneers is a shoe in for the playoffs almost 100%. I think that's one of those things that just trying to infer that from the rankings. So it's saying the NFC teams would be Buccaneers, Eagles, Giants, Falcons, Seahawks, Panthers, Cowboys. That wouldn't cut. Wait, the Cowboys wouldn't be it because it wouldn't cover an NFC North team. Did I skip the Packers? Wow, he has the Packers at 19. What am I missing? No Packers, no Lions, nothing in the top half of the NFL for the once vaunted NFC North. My God, the disrespect.
Uh, I find it oh, never mind. He's got two quarterbacks. Never mind. I'll give that to him.
Let's see. But yeah, the love of the Giants team. I mean, don't get me wrong. great dynasty asset team on paper, but them being the fifth highest scoring team in the league this year, I'm having trouble there, guys.
I would agree on that. Those are very generous points for that young offense.
Well, the thing that's crazy about it is his wide receiver core is projected in this to be the highest scoring receiving core in the league.
Which, again, is curious to me because, and I get the process. He's using, I think it's Clay's numbers and percentages for the stuff. And then what's he overlaying it again? Again, I know, James, you got further into the discussion with him on this stuff.
He's got that, and then he's got his own pretty much projection system that he's using. But a lot of the data is coming straight from Clay's, and it's not really being manipulated that much. If you go look at what Clay's says versus what his says, his just more so combines it, makes it a lot easier to read for our league's purposes.
Does Clay ever circle back on his predictions and say, here's how I did, or here's what I did right or wrong? I feel like some of the guys who do this kind of projection, have kind of a mea culpa at end of year for stuff or what I learned, but I can't remember if Clay is one of those guys.
I'm not sure, but I do know that he's pretty heavily favoring the young receivers in this league. Because the Chargers too, which, the Chargers wide receiver room in our league is pretty much all rookies. He's in the top half as well, with no real proven commodities on that roster either.
So let's see. What teams am I surprised are at the bottom with me that maybe shouldn't be? I think the bottom 10 is pretty accurate based off where things are, although the sort of very narrow nature of where those teams finish is really interesting to me. Like, obviously, Jags has from Jags to Packers, you have a variation of about 7 teams, but then that gets real narrow real fast to like 4 or 5 spots. Like Rams, he has pegged. He is 24th. His max is 24. His min is 24. He is going to finish 24th. Same with Patriots on 25th. But again, which is funny because I guess those are some pretty clear tier breaks from the 20. If you look at Bills, kind of at 3,200, and then 2,900 for Rams, 2,600 for Pats, 2,300 for Cardinals, and then 2,100 for Colts. Like, you're getting some pretty large gaps between points. Whereas everyone from, say, 23 up don't really separate for more than 100 points between each team.
You guys said the Bucs as the 4th best defensive tackle group in the league.
Probably not, but either way, it's pretty awesome that we can have this kind of review on this stuff. So I think Lions is continuing to tweak it, which is cool. I love the individual player contribution stuff, so we can actually look at it by team. I love the position scores by team and grid. This continues to just be a really fun piece of analysis to look at. And then in terms of who's got good teams or bad, New Orleans Saints, 4th worst team. Man, his defensive tackles. Whew. I think that's what you were arguing with him. He's the 2nd best in D tackles. He's the man.
Yeah. The Falcons have the best linebacking group in the league, apparently, somehow.
That I don't know about that.
Yeah, especially if Taki moves to edge. Dude, Eric Kendricks can't run anymore. Like, I know he's going to play. He's going to have a big role in Dallas, but he can't run. Levante's still a stud. Shaq's coming back off a big injury, and Drew in that situation in KC, I feel still revolving because I really like the young guy, the third year guy there. Commanders has him and won't send him to me. Try to get him for even after the draft. I can't remember his name right now though.
I gotcha.
Cochran?
No, younger guy, a lot younger than
Leo Chanel.
yeah, Chanel. Yeah, yeah, but the Falcons linebacker room being considered number one's pretty funny to me.
Yeah, there are some interesting, like when you break it down by position, like we've already said, the Giants wide receivers, some of them are interesting. I'm trying to see if any of them stand out while we're talking about it.
I honestly think that the Jets cornerback room, in this, it shows that the Jets cornerback room by average only outscores the next cornerback room by 50. I honestly believe that Jets cornerback room might end up outscoring the league by like 120 points.
That's possible. Those are also.
Like I think it's fairly easy. Like he's got a phenomenal corner room as long as those names stay healthy.
Where am I in there? Oh no, I'm towards the bottom. Doesn't have Gilmore factored in.
Also, we got to give it to the Bears for having the best safety room in the league.
Ooh.
For those of us who are clearly safety aficionados, I must give him the tip of the hat.
I have to look at that now. Oh.
Like, to be one of the tanking teams and yet still have one of the best rooms at a position, go you.
Yep.
Yep.
What about that? All right. I think I'm good with the projections. Anything else you guys want to add as closing thoughts?
Not pertaining to Lions projections.
All right. Let's get into the forecast, the real forecast, the reason people joined, not the numbers. We're not a fact-based forecast. You won't find facts here. You'll find conjecture. You'll find opinions. You'll find a little bit of bullshit, but a lot of opinions. And that's why I think people enjoy listening. And because it's about their league. And, I have a central voice. All of those reasons. AFC North. Let's start with the hardest division. Who's winning this?
Bengals.
I'm going brownies all day.
Here I was thinking Ravens.
Really?
So, what about the Ravens? Is it that draws you in? Is it the DJ Moore? Is it the Tyreek Hill? Is it the Caleb Williams is now in Chicago for the Bears? Is it the Pacheco? Like, what part of that team do you think is like what you thinking over there, Mike?
So I'm thinking that Ravens has a top 10 point scorer at each of his offensive positions, and then depth at those same positions that he has to have behind them. I am very high on Cole Kmet still. I know folks are saying the sky is falling. Gerald Everett's taking that job. I think Kmet is going to break out this year, and Everett's going to take that complimentary role like he has the last couple of years. That's a tight end example. Reek is the obvious lead for the receivers, but I love DJ Moore as a number 2. I think Cooks is going to get a lot more targets and a lot more focus, especially with the Lamb situation, especially with the youths behind him. I think he's got really high chance of breakout players all over the place, but he's still got sort of the strong linchpin at each of those positions as well. And then his defense, just get out of here. It's 3 of his defensive tackles are going to be just full on legit this year. A great linebacker room. He's 4 deep at basically each of the defensive positions, except for safety. And if he wanted to get a 4th safety, I'm pretty sure he'd find a way. So it's a complete team. They can score. They're going to put up points. It's you're going to have to boat race him to 230, 240 on a regular to beat him. And that's the kind of team that wins a division. Whereas I feel like a lot of the other teams in the division have a major fatal flaw on their team, whereas Ravens is covered across the board.
RJ, what do you see on the Bengals that made you choose them over the Ravens then?
So equivalent quarterback, deeper running back, right around the same level of wide receiver. Maybe give the Ravens a tiny edge, just on the top end, but I think they're both just as deep. Bengals has the edge on tight end, and we all know Bengals knows IDP. Sure, Ravens has a pretty decent IDP, but Bengals has the depth where it's needed, like defensive end. He is 5 deep and like a legitimate 5 deep. I think that is probably just slightly more complete. Like, I think we're splitting hairs. Either of the 3 teams are going to be, barring any major injuries, they're all going to be fighting for that spot. Just right now, I think Bengals is a little bit deeper, or his depth is a little bit better.
All right, then James, what are you thinking about the Browns that put you over the edge?
My thing is in comparison to the other two. Russ hasn't been good, but he's been more healthy than the other 2 quarterbacks. Running back wise, I feel he's the deepest with the most potential opportunities every week. The Bengals has the entire Chicago room, which is nice, but that's fewer opportunities than what I see in the Browns running back room. And then when it comes to the high-end receivers, you got A.J. Brown and Terry. That's pretty close to what everyone else has. Then you got the nobody knows anything in Buffalo, and Shakir's the only guy coming back. And then you also just have the depth there of having Romeo Doubs. You got the rookie in Corley. You got some returners to get points. At tight end, Goddard's really solid. I hope he'll be more involved in the Kellen Moore offense. The D-tackle room is probably the weakest out of the 3, but it's still pretty solid. The edge room is really good. It's pretty much on par, I would say, with the Bengals, but it has a little bit more high-end potential with a little less depth. Linebacker room is as deep as everyone else, if not deeper. And then corner and safety probably needs some flushing out, but who cares? It's corner and safety.
And they are employed and putting up points, most likely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll join you on the Browns running back room being absurdly deep. I had forgotten how everything literally broke in his favor for this. So that's fair.
I agree with that also. You just cut Boston Scott, and those 4 are still insane.
I still don't think you can talk me out of the Ravens being a step above the other 2 QB rooms. Clearly, right now it looks like Bengals has the best tight end and Ravens the worst, with the Browns being the most stable or collection of folks in the middle. And like I said, this is the defense. So, I mean, but is it too hot of a take that the Steelers win this division?
Nope. Still another legit team. Top 15 quarterback, 2 quality running backs with a little bit of depth. Quality wide receivers could probably get a little bit better. Like, needs 1 more. One of the better tight end groups, at least upside wise. And another defense that is super deep and a lot more points than you have starting positions.
His problem is, though, is he doesn't have the star power on offense, and also when it comes to his best offensive players, 2 of them are on the same offense. whereas everyone else in the division has some superstars on several teams. Like James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, both have a chance to finish, fairly high in their different position groups, but they're always going to be limited by opportunities compared to each other. Whereas all these other teams in the division have multiple superstars on multiple different teams. So he's kind of got himself handcuffed a little bit. He's definitely got a heck of a team, but this is one of those teams where it's like he needs to upgrade a piece here, and then he can really compete. He doesn't really need to do anything different than what he's been doing. He's done well.
Still, for a team's construction to have all his 2026 picks and be only a move or two away from basically being on par with three of the better teams in this league, probably a decent, feeling from not being in that division, but to have that roster construction.
Yeah, if you put him in any other division in the AFC, I think you honestly have to consider him potentially winning it, except maybe the West. But he could easily go into the South and East and either be the favorite or a very likely number 2 heavy contender for the division.
Yeah, the answer to my question was an obvious no. It's not too out of a take to say – it is too out of a take to say that he makes the playoffs. This team is a very good team, would win 2 other divisions, but he's not making the playoffs. He's not winning this division. In fact, I think he's going to commit to a rebuild by the end of the doubleheaders. Now, whether that's a full blow-it-up rebuild or whether it's just retooling a couple of things, but I absolutely see him moving some of that running back depth. His receivers just scream a third receiver gets bought by a contender. People are going to go hunting for tight ends when they realize that it actually matters that you have a decent one, at least one, and then enough defensive depth to get picked off, but not enough to carry him. So, again, him missing the playoffs is not a hot take. Him ending up as a top 12 pick because he is completely imploded and sold off is what I think is going to happen with the Steelers. Here's my take.
I like it.
All right. Any other either hot takes or so does that mean that we all agree that there's a winner and 2 wild cards coming for this division?
Very likely, yes. The hot take would be somebody picking only 2 teams to make it to the playoffs out of this division.
So I'm kind of there. I think strength of schedule is got a real shot this year to let a lesser team make the playoffs. I'll tell you who when we get there.
Okay, so not in this division?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
All right. Any parting thoughts in the north, or should we head south?
Oh, let's go south.
All right, we're going south. This is a division champ only, probably division. I guess there's a path for 2 if if Texans team really makes a leap. Not sure if that's asking too much. I feel like he's going to be right in the Raiders zone of 8th, 9th best teams, but not quite good enough to make it. Colts, who knows? I feel like he's going to keep trading, and he's going to be insistent that his pick is not going to be in the top 10, even though it's projecting there right now. I mean, at some point, we're going to turn over and say, shit, how'd that happen?
I'm going to honestly go ahead out and say he'll be 1-7 by the end of the 4 doubleheaders.
So let's see. What is his schedule at the end of the
So he plays Texans, Jags, Titans, Broncos, Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Bengals. And I think the only team he beats is Miami. He starts off 1-7, and everybody that owns his first round pick for the next 2 years starts dancing.
I'd say that's a little bit warm. Not sure if that's super hot, but that's definitely warm. What do you think, RJ?
Definitely not a super hot take. I mean, can none of these teams make the playoffs? No. I think we save that for some of the other divisions. No, I don't. There's not many hot takes for this division. Like, doesn't Titans just win it?
I definitely lean that way pretty heavily. Like, I think we've got one more year for the Texans to find themselves a quarterback, figure out what IDP is, and then it might be Texans from here on out for a while.
Yeah, Texans is a good team. A lot of good assets on offense, but like, the defense is lacking. Other than linebacker, like a lot of names in the secondary, but not a lot of names that are going to be super productive.
Yep. But in all seriousness, I'm going to need someone to go get Aiden O'Connell from Texans so I can trade back for him. I was trying to get Hooker from Seattle. Don't think it's going to happen. I can't directly deal and get O'Connell from Texans, so someone's got to do it for me. So let's get on this, boys and girls.
Aiden's on the Texans? No, he's on the Lions. No, wait. Who actually has Aiden O'Connell?
Texans.
Oh, Texans. Sorry, I got him confused with Gardner.
Gardner.
Yeah, I was still wrong on the team that had him.
All right. Does anyone have a hot take about the South?
No. I mean, all of the teams are kind of lacking. Like we've gone over them before, but yeah, Titans most likely just runs away with that division.
Yeah, I mean, I love the comparison, and I think I was one of the ones who identified it, and I think others agreed, but was Daniel Jones embracing his Bortles years. I feel like that's going to happen one year, whether it's happened already or whether he's still got one more Bortles year in there. I feel like that's what's happening this year because of neighbors, because of all this other craziness. So.
Oh, I hope not. I don't want them to go to the NFC Championship.
I think the Texans win this division this year.
You think the Texans wins the division over the Titans?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, his offenses, like, they both have really good offenses. Oh yeah, Titans did get rid of Harold Landry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's definitely feasible, but I'll bet on CMC.
I hope, look, as a Niners fan, I hope everybody's right. I hope he's got another year of number one overall fantasy player production in him. When he plays, he does it. I'm just concerned. I think
even without him,
we either pull back on his usage or he's going to miss a few games.
Even without him, I own Trey Benson. James Conner is a
Did we lose James?
I think we did.
It's always when he starts making a statement. Any parting thoughts for you in the South?
No.
All right, let's go to the East. It's Jets division. We don't have to think too hard about this one. Dolphins are obviously tanking. Good for them. Let's have a good race to the bottom. Right now, I think both the Bills and Pats are showing up in the bottom 10. Is that the right place for both of these guys, or do you think that they have a chance at the middle?
I think the bottom 10 is probably a good placement. I think Bills should probably aid his tanking and start selling off some of the higher end pieces. Because he has some good stuff, but there's just not enough of it to really like steal wins or anything.
Right.
It's just a collection of decent but aging players.
Well, then you guys ready for some fire?
Some fire. Do it.
I
Fire
think the
away.
Bills make the playoffs.
Sweet.
So a big chunk of why you make the playoffs is who you play. You know, he has the great gift of having the Dolphins and Pats twice. He also gets to play the Colts. He also gets to play the Cardinals. He also gets to play the Rams and the 49ers. When you play a lot of dog shit teams and you have enough good players like a Dak, like a Tony Pollard, like a Crosby, like a TJ Watt, and you've got starters at every position, you're going to win some games you probably shouldn't. I can easily see him winning 8 games just off of the shitty opponents he plays. And all he's got to do is steal 1 or 2. Someone's got a bad bye matchup against him. Somebody has someone get hurt. You know, he has a TJ and Max Crosby 30-point game. You know, maybe Dak goes for 30, Pollard goes for 20. All of a sudden, the dude put up 250 one week and wins.
Sorry, I had to prepare another drink. I got to get on your guys' level here. Did that just freeze on me? Oh, crap. Hopefully this doesn't freeze. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. My computer went to sleep on me there for a second, so hopefully the broadcast wasn't affected. I follow your logic. I get your work. I think there's enough good teams in the AFC that something like 11 or 12 is going to be the magic number.
But see, that's the thing, though. A lot of these good teams have really tough schedules. I think that when we go look at the AFC North, I think there's a real chance that the team in 3rd and 4th only has 9 or 10 wins. And I really feel the Bills has an easy 8. Like, he could easily pick up 1 or 2 more, and then somehow one of those teams loses a game. I think he can really make it. Should he? No. But I think he can.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're maybe discounting some of the teams a little bit too much that you listed there. I'm notoriously higher on the Colts than a lot of other people, but that's just me.
Well, Colts doesn't even have starters at some of those spots. Like at RB, he's going to put up a 0 against Tony Pollard. And then you've got, but no, I get it. It's just, it's got to be hot somehow, right?
Whoa. Isaiah Spiller isn't going to be a good play for him.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who that guy is.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, I'm expecting there to be 1 or 2 more trades before we get to the regular season on some of these teams. And I know you can't assess teams necessarily that way, but I think at least one of Colts' receivers has been broken down or exchanged for a running back. And he's going to fill a couple of these other things. I think he's notoriously going for certain assets, but if one of those assets comes available, he's not going to hesitate to, do what he needs to do to go grab it. And maybe he's not a playoff team, but I feel like he's going to be, in that 120 to 140 range. That, second tier, not quite wild card, not quite blowing it up teams, and then we have 8 to 10 teams there every year. Dolphins currently at $123 million in the salary cap, so he still has about $90 million in salary cap available somehow with some of the moves he's made. What's he got to do to? Where's the cap that he can go by at this point besides Nate Landman?
I think the big thing there is he needs to probably take some more shots on guys that he might be able to sell for something.
Yeah, I've got a full roster of those. I can't wait for 8 members of my team to get cut coming out of next weekend, but it's the life we lead. Spend a moment on Pats. Again, seems to be in one of his cocoon phases between tanking and going forward and tanking. I guess flip the coin. Heads, he goes back in and tries to win it and buys a couple more things. Tails, he keeps breaking it down and keeps going young, despite the fact that he doesn't control his first for next year. Which way is the coin coming up?
I think it's coming up. He wants to buy a quarterback and no one's selling.
Well, no one's selling right now, but I think that's going to change.
Yeah, it always does. It's Pats. He's going to want to have the season be fun, so he's going to buy. And then he's going to lose games, and then he's going to sell. And then he's going to get bored again, and there's going to be someone who he thinks he can buy because they dip, or maybe he just falls in love with someone who's doing well, and he'll buy him.
I guess that's fair. But again, there's plenty of teams who have quarterbacks who don't really need them. Maybe it's he and Chicago making another Fields trade, or he goes and gets Drew Lock from whoever has him. I don't know. I feel like there's a move or two here that he can build a quarterback by consensus.
Yep, definitely possible. He needs some of his youth to pan out, which a handful of them look like they have carved out roles. So yeah, he needs the young guys to be consistent, and there will eventually be a seller of a quarterback.
So considering he has Bryce Young, Jordan Addison, some rookies, and really nothing to speak of on defense, can Chargers keep pace with Dolphins and I in our race to the bottom?
Does he need to?
I mean, why would you not want to?
I don't know if he really has to, because if you're Dolphins, Penix is probably not playing all year, so I wouldn't say he's out of the quarterback market. You've made it fairly clear who you want, and Chargers doesn't really have a big need at that position, so it's either going to be a running back or maybe moving off of Bryce to get a different quarterback. So I feel he can pretty comfortably finish top 4, top 5 picks and be fine.
Yep. He's already got the quarterback, so he doesn't need to position himself for, the 101 necessarily. He can just take best player available, whatever comes to him at this point.
Well, even at that, he's got a good chance to be able to move Bryce and the 104, 105 to move up to upgrade if it turns really bad for Bryce. But
sure, yeah. if there's a player that he prefers, of course.
Out of all of our tankers, he's in the best situation. It looks a lot like what the Jets did.
How dare you?
Well, I mean, best situation as far as assets
I'm-
that he has.
Dude, I've flown my team up to absolute nothing. I have a $118 million quarterback. I know I'm not it. This is not the desirable situation to be in.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to defend. Just like I do agree he's in a great situation, but when it does boil down to it, if I'm tanking, I probably want all the picks and no young quarterback. So
But no, yeah, I get that. It's just for him, he's probably finishing top 6 picks, top 7 picks.
right,
And he's one of those guys, he can literally go from top 6, top 7 picks to one more good offseason. He's a playoff team, and he's a perennial playoff team if he hit on enough of his picks. So
right, and
he's in a
that's
very good spot.
that's the comfort. One of the comforts of having like a quarterback and just having that flexibility.
Yep. And well, also, you don't have to necessarily believe Bryce is the guy either, because it comes into, what if the Bengals week 3, Burrow gets hurt again and he's going to miss like 7 weeks. And he could maybe flip Bryson something to go get, Burrow back, or, just any injured potential quarterback. He's got enough stuff to go buy whoever else he wants as a vet as well.
Well, if he does that with any of the high-end quarterbacks, I feel bad for everybody else in the league that has to compete against a good team with a super cheap quarterback that could just in season take on all the overly priced productive players.
Yep.
Well, again, we're going to see what happens here because we're also talking about Bryce Young like everything's going to be fine this year. And, we just saw Kenny Pickett. There were plenty of people last offseason who were talking themselves into he's going the route of Joe Burrow. We're fine. Everything's okay here. Bryce could be looking for a job next offseason.
Kenny wasn't the 101, and I think that's what saves Bryce. Like, I think he gets the longest leash out of any quarterback that could fail is one that goes first overall.
I think there's miles and miles of talent difference between those two players. I get what you're saying, but there's a handful of quarterbacks that are that way this year. Anthony Richardson gets hurt again. Colts finish with the top 10 pick. His ass ain't safe. Yep. You can't miss 2 years, be a developmental project quarterback. We saw that with Trey Lance. First year, redshirt, second year, gets hurt. All right, third year, you're out of a job, bud. Bye.
It's a party.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those guys right now in the league to where it's like, but that's why there's so much baked in risk until you get a Trevor Lawrence, this guy, that guy, and the other guy who are getting all these 4 or 5 year, $250 million deal pluses.
Yeah. Definitely some guys getting the bag. Well, and so we've obviously moved on to the AFC West here. Outside the Chargers, the other 3 teams were in the playoff hunt last year. Bill obviously made the Super Bowl and lost. Chiefs made the playoffs and I think was out first game. And Raiders just barely missed the playoffs, if I remember correctly. So, what are you thinking, Bill or Goose?
I say Goose.
I think I'm leaning that way too.
Yeah, I'll go with the Duck.
Very, definitely close margin on that one. But yeah, Goose just has an insane amount of depth, and somebody is going to produce every week.
Yeah, the Broncos are just too glass cannon-y.
Yep. Definitely a team that can get hot and still win a championship, even from a wild card spot. But probably lacks a little bit of the consistency.
If anything, it compares really well to that Ravens team last year, where it's like all of a sudden, oh shit, Tua is actually playing the whole year. Tyreek's looking great. DJ Moore's looking great. And everyone's just like, I don't want to play that guy. That Broncos team feels more like that to me this year than he did last year as the juggernaut he was.
I agree. I think that is a very good comparison.
Yeah, last year he was able to combine that elite profile with the depth, kind of like I was talking about with Ravens earlier. This year he just doesn't have that. So, and then Raiders, are they a playoff team or not a playoff team for you guys? I have them in the playoffs.
So he's one of the teams I could see just the Bills finds a way to win games and he doesn't. And it's all schedule. Like, he's got a hard schedule.
So his schedule is...
He's got to play the NFC South, the AFC West, and he's got to play the AFC... I'm looking blind right now.
Yeah. I don't have them in the playoffs. Mine are 3 from the north.
Oh, it's the north.
Yeah.
3 from the north, 2 from the west, and then 1 from the east and the south. That is my AFC. Right? 7? Yeah.
To me, like, the big need he needs to do is Mike Evans doesn't need to be on that team. Go send Mike Evans to somebody. Like if Goose wanted to win the division, Goose could go send 2 twos to the Raiders for Mike Evans and probably lock it up and easily be the favorite. Will Goose pay $17 million to a receiver? No. Will he pay 2 twos for a guy as old as Mike Evans? No. But it would definitely make it cleaner.
It'd be fun to see them do that. And again, we didn't have we were talking pre-pod about adding the shtick for this is what this team needs to be doing. So I guess now we've kind of gone through the AFC. We'll turn our lens back here. What if you could pick one team in the AFC that you could say, get off your ass and do this? Who are you picking? RJ, we'll go to you first.
I would say Bills, get off your ass and break down your team. Jets are going to take that division, so there's no need to just hold on to those points.
All right, I would say Browns. The market's picked off a little bit, and as we can see, it's tough to necessarily find one because Pats is doing their best. But get off your ass and get another quarterback option that's not named Russell Wilson. We're debating you to win your division, and if you win this division, you're probably in pole position with the AFC this year. So, don't be Seattle. Don't be cute. You've got picks. You've got capital. Just go get that second quarterback. There's plenty available. Look around the league. It might be $1.10 instead of $1, but just go get it. Because if it's Fields, it's not worth it. And that doubleheader against your division, you could be down 3 games early trying to dig out, and that's going to be hard. Like that's the darkest timeline for Browns. Is Fields wins the job, Washington becomes a little bit more of a timeshare, and his team goes from one of the deepest at a lot of positions to no quarterback, 1 receiver. He's got a great running back room, and then please God let my defense carry me, and that's not enough in the North.
Yep.
James, any other urgings you want to do?
Mine's the Texans. You've made some moves. You've been really calculated. You've got some big-time assets. But, you're about to have to pay all these dudes. And I understand not wanting to get rid of them. You know, you're going to want to pay them. You're going to want to keep them. But this is your best window you'll probably have. I would go ahead and ship my first and Daniel Jones, get a better quarterback, use my 2 seconds, and try to get another edge or two. Because if you have all that, you win the South. And if you win the South, you know, you've got a far better chance of actually contending and winning. Got enough pieces he can. It's just he's got to improve his edge room and his quarterback room. And also, why the hell do you have like 6 safeties? That's just don't. You can start only 2 a week. Get rid of them.
Yeah, it's not the position you collect. All right, let's move over to the NFC. We'll start with the once illustrious North. Like I said, as the predictions, all 4 teams in the NFC North are in the bottom 15 this year. So that's not great, but it's a 2-horse race between Lions and Packers, right?
Youth versus experience, or old guys, whichever way you want to phrase it.
What do you think, James?
I think the most fun thing that could happen is the Packers blowing up his team. And you, Packers and Bears, running for a rebuild to compete with all of each other in the future. Because right now with the stacked rebuilds, I don't like where he'll be for the next year or two. Because
Sure.
Lions already has a great jump start. Bears are going to have a better
Lions.
Oh yeah, I'm taking the Packers, but it's not going to be a pretty end for him. He's got so much value that's going to just fall off a cliff.
Well, if Mike wasn't so adamant about tanking, I would just pick Mike because I would trust that he would trade for enough assets to win his division. But because of that, I will pick the Packers for, I don't know, we say this every year that it's probably the last time, but probably the last time.
I appreciate that vote of confidence. Barring someone paying me what I think Purdy is worth, and doing so in a deal that that properly turns over my team, I think the degree of difficulty in that trade is above anything that we've seen, say, the Saints pull off this offseason, and the sheer number of pieces that would move and the sheer amount of value that would move. But yeah, it's Bears and I bringing up the rear, and then the surging Lions versus the Packers trying to win one more in their window. And then, yeah, I don't think I have a hot take about this division either.
Well, I think we can take a look at Lions and kind of give them I mean, I don't know. Lions knows what he needs to get better at. That's pretty much everything but wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I really like all of his team except for running back and tight end. Like every position group he's got, I think it might not be like best in the league, but I think all of them are top half of the league groups. Maybe not in this year production, but potential. He's got some really good young guys.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
All right. Let's go south. I'm going to start mine with a hot take here. Actually, I won't. I'm going to let RJ start with this hot take because I don't want to steal it.
Oh no, it's fine.
No, you told me first. You get to say it.
I think Panthers wins this division.
Damn right.
Well, if you guys both think it, is it really hot?
Well, considering that the Buccaneers are projected to be the number one seed in the league and go as low as 4, yeah, I'd say it's fairly spicy. Falcons, I think we all agree, isn't doing enough. Saints is doing too much, and Buccaneers isn't making a trade unless it's so lopsided to win. And he's, I know we talk about this and maybe misunderstood by certain players in the league, but he's got to lose a few trades here. And by lose a few trades, it's the perceived value may not be there, but the production is what it needs to be for him to get to where he needs to go.
Yeah, to me, the big thing with him, like, he upgraded from Debo to Amon-Ra and gave up an entire draft class. Like, is that a great upgrade and everything? Yes, but he's gotten thin. Like, he's got 10 to 12 guys on his roster I think are borderline 5th rounder cuttable players.
Yep. And you can't have that much open space on your roster and do anything in this league. You have to be pretty solid from top to bottom.
Yep, I agree with that. We have seen successful teams that are kind of paper thin, but yeah, there gets to a point where you kind of consolidate all your value too much, and then like a third of your roster is like fringe guys, and that's where it becomes a problem.
Yep. So,
Do we want to talk
Panthers
about
wins the division, if Buccaneers are a wild card, those are the only 2 teams you guys have in this division, right?
Unless Falcons actually does something.
Yeah.
Like, that Falcons roster is just being wasted. Like, he could make it a very, very good race in the South if he did something. And, we talked, and apparently he has made a couple offers on a couple of edges, this, that, and the other. So, but it's just one of those things you'd like to see him actually get something done.
I have that team limping in as the last wild card spot. Like, I only see one from the north, and then 3 from the south, and then we'll get into the other divisions in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think about Bucks. The offense is clearly there. It's pretty impressive, especially some of the big names. The defense is starting to feel a little glass cannony to me.
Mm-hmm. 3, kind of 4 deep at defensive end. I mean, like, the top 2 are insane.
So Yannick's not on the team, right?
No,
right.
So I love Trey. Don't get me wrong. Trey's 30. Turns 30 in December.
Yeah, turns 30 in December.
He's going to have another really good year. The Bengals have a very easy schedule and a lot of bad tackles that he'll be going up against this year. Yeah, the bigger issue for me with Bucks is just when you're leaning on a wide receiver 3, that's Cortland Sutton and Mike Williams, it's not that exciting to me. When you have all running backs that miss time about every year with injuries, it's not that exciting to me. When you only have one tight end, like, he's really good, but you only have one. I don't know. Like, it's a very, very good team. Like, I agree with the projections and everything. Like, it's a heck of a team. It's just, as we said earlier, it's just got a lot more garbage on it than we're used to seeing on a Bucks roster.
Whereas Panthers has very minimal amounts of garbage. Do we want to talk about why we think so highly of this team?
Do we have to?
We'll spend
I
a
guess
minute
we
or
should.
two.
Do you want to start, RJ, or should I?
I can. So, is a serviceable quarterback. Not sure where he's going to land. Probably closer towards the 20 range, but 3 deep at running back. All most likely going to be productive. Quality group of wide receivers. 3 definitely like every week startable, potentially a 4th, and a quality rookie. 2 starting tight ends, and a backup that Panthers is quite fond of. Defensive tackle, I think, might need a little bit of help. I think even the projections are a little bit high for Fisk, so I would probably want to fix that position. And I know you've already acknowledged that you're trying to do that with acquiring Grover. Defensive ends are solid. Linebackers are on par with the rest of the contenders in this league. A minimum of 3 solid linebackers. And a ridiculous accumulation of defensive backs.
All right. So I know I just said making the hot take here. That was too hot for me. I'm pulling this back. I like a lot of things on Panthers team. I like a lot of the depth on Panthers team. Some of the top tier scoring you need, I don't think is here yet. But he's got a lot of scoring. So I think it's one of those where he goes head to head with Buccaneers for the division. He wins four of those. He loses 6 of them. Maybe it's 7-3.
Potentially.
And it's not because the team's bad. It's just because Trey might need a year to get past Connor, and can Moss and Spears stand up to the 5 guys that Bucks have? Levis may take a step forward in the offense, but does he have the reliability and comfort of a Ben Johnson offense? You want the Panthers vector, but you're unclear whether that vector is going to get you above what you need for this year. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that. And like we said, Falcons isn't trading enough. Saints is trading too much. Just a great fun collection of teams. We'll drop down to the East. I mean, outside of Commanders being in last, I think we're probably split between the 3 teams here again.
I think it's pretty easy. It's Eagles 1, Giants 2, Cowboys 3, Commanders 4. Cowboys just don't have the receiver depth to compete. Like, he's got Devontae Adams and Cuttable.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously think that I take the division.
I mean, so in all seriousness, you've got Hurts, you've got Montgomery, you've got Adams, you've got Chig, you've got Parsons.
It doesn't even sound like Chig has won the job, though, in Tennessee. Chig's got competition.
Do you blow this team up?
He's got to do something because he's in salary cap hell.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's very close. So I have definitely looked at this team in my, attempting to buy things, and I'm hesitant to send an offer because, surface level, you do think that this team might be searching for, a fringe playoff spot. But it is also very close to, Well, if he trades off Adams, there's no real reason to hold on to everything. And it's like his best linebacker's out for the year already. So he has a lot of value wrapped up in safeties. Get rid of those before everybody realizes they're not as valuable as we think.
Yeah, well, the other thing too here is like if you're talking about rebuilding everything, this is another one of those teams where the value is just going to fall off. Like David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Devontae Adams. Like how many more years you think those guys really have? Like you can even add Clowney into that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I was trying to think of a fun, different angle to play this other than just Giants versus Eagles, but I don't even know if Cowboys is good enough to really slot into a playoff spot right now. But I know the North isn't very good. The West isn't very good. South is probably going to have at least two teams, maybe three. And then you got two teams in the East.
As it stands, the Falcons is better than the Cowboys as is, and that's not even close.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. Any other thoughts on the East? Any get up and do this or hot takes?
I'm pretty confident Eagles wins it this year. There's just too much youth on that Giants team for me to be confident. And then there's a lot of patchwork on certain positions, especially his IDP. His IDP is very patchworky to me. I think a lot of those guys are going to be shuffling for jobs.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, I think Giants positioned himself to rebuild, but kind of like I was describing Panthers situation, I think he just needs another year. I don't think he's going to be able to score where he needs to score as those guys kind of find their feet in the league. All right. And finally, to the West.
Can we take a moment of silence for the Rams and J.J. McCarthy?
That was rough.
You hate to see it when it happens. It's Seattle's division, although, and I think I've made this known in group chat, it does annoy me about him being so cute by half to say, oh, I'm going to downgrade my quarterback and I'm going to pick up more picks and look at me. We're going to have all this draft capital for next year and I'm going to win in my division. Like, taking that kind of approach does one of two things. You either piss the league off so much that, you're playing with that, it just kind of falls apart, or, you sell that stud for a first and a second and, fold it back in and that guy becomes nothing. So it's one of those where it seems better to quit while you're ahead, but that's just my analysis.
I mean,
we've seen it before. Like we saw the Browns trade away CeeDee Lamb for the Pats first and second, and that might have honestly cost him, the ability to advance in the playoffs. So,
I mean, so you hold on to some picks, you win your division, you win your entry, and then you get stomped in the first round of the playoffs. Like that's typically the path of, when you don't know if you're in or out. So, like, yeah. I mean, we've seen the trades that he's made. Like, he's acquired some pretty decent stuff, but aside from, like, holding on to Achane, like, he's had better wide receivers and, like, other quality running backs this offseason, and he's moved away from them, and he's still holding on to the likes of Chubb, Eckler, Gibson, and like all of these guys are going to be worth half or more, like half of what they were worth, like in the beginning of the offseason. Like,
Yeah, he's literally taking time bomb. Like if you go from literally from Watson to Chubb to Eckler to Gibson, all four of those guys could be worth nothing. Jerry Jeudy can be worth next to nothing. Quentin Johnston was worth it for nothing when he traded for him, in my opinion. Sky Moore is worth nothing, in my opinion. He's done pretty good on the IDP side. I don't know what he bought like Devin White for, but Devin White's a guy who could be worth a lot or nothing pretty quick. And then DeMario's going to age out.
this feels like my team from 2 years ago, where like it looks like a competitor, and then quickly, like halfway through the season, you realize that either every player is going to age out or they're just the most well-known backup in the league.
Yeah, like as good as his 5 first-round picks are, if we get to week 6 and Watson gets benched, okay, well, you have to go buy a new quarterback. No one's giving you anything for Watson. Watson's had all of his opportunities, all of his chances. You're going to have to go pay a premium to go get a quarterback again. You know, Nick Chubb might not play until halfway through the season.
Yep.
Like, and then if Austin Eckler isn't a dominant role in Washington and Gibson isn't a dominant role, you have A-Chain as your only person scoring, and, you know, he's a split backfield with Mostert. That's not a guaranteed, you know, that's a boom or bust situation at RB. And then all of a sudden you get down to receiver, and the only person you have to reliably get you like 15 points a week, honestly, is Debo. Like, as much as everyone likes T's been fairly inconsistent majority of his career as a fantasy producer. Like, good best ball asset, but 1 week you get 4, 1 week you get 25. It's just the way that dude rolls.
Right. Tight ends are solid, though.
Hell yeah. Best tight end room in the league, and it ain't even a question, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked to hear you say that.
Well, you know, he could always improve by adding some, you know, a bona fide tip in there, but the rest of it's fine.
Like I said, I was shocked that you would even suggest that. All right, we're now in 15 in. You guys have the gas to do some trades too, or should we save those for next week?
We can do trades if you would like. I'm down. I don't think anything too crazy happened, right?
I think it's honestly been pretty tame, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see, trades. No, not really. What, Tuesday last week?
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we'll fire through these pretty quick. Giants is here too, so I'll let him in just in time to talk about the trade that happened. Let's see. Jeudy for Marlon Humphrey and a second, the Indianapolis second. That's a interesting price to pay.
It's a fine price for Jeudy. He's really expensive for what his production's most likely going to be. You know, he's not a first anymore, so second's fine.
It might be 33, though. Let me rephrase it, 35. I forgot Mike's in here.
I don't think it'll be that high. I think it was a little cheap. I still think, I don't know, if I had a plethora of late first, I might spend one on Jeudy. But I've always been a Jeudy truther.
Yeah, I think he's got this shot, and then that's the end of it. You know, he always looks good in shorts. His numbers of separation always look good, but he's got to produce this year, and the Browns got to be good, or else I think this is the end. Ravens moving my Austin Stogner that I gave him as the cheapest player on his team with a 5th for Derek Forrest. I shipped Shipley, Whittington, Trey Brown, and the Jets 3rd for the Broncos 1st next year. It's just me kind of pivoting out of these positions. I think Pat's probably caught him on the way up, but a couple of these could very easily turn into Shipley never gets up from 3rd on the depth chart, and Whittington ends up getting stuck too, in which case it's a bit of a bore for Pats, but if either one break out like they could, it could be a huge win.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, like a 3-for-1. I know he's just kind of trying to add depth at this point, but I feel like he should have kept the 1st just to he's still trying to add a quarterback and a receiver of more consequence. But yeah, if one of them hits, cool. He probably got good value. I just think the chance of one of them hitting is kind of low.
All right. Said Johnson for Mark Robinson. Said was one of my 5th round shots at defensive end. Mark Robinson running out of chances, but looks to be in the rotation of the Pittsburgh linebacking core. Doubling down on linebackers after this true position change, and we'll see if that turns out okay.
Yeah, kind of roster fodder move.
Yeah, it's the someone I paid a 5th for somebody I think it's worth is probably a 3rd or 4th. So, DeAndre Carter getting stolen by the Bears. Manuel Forbes for Jonathan Kingsley. Velus Jones getting stolen by Bills. Back-to-back Panthers trades here. Breaking down Preston Smith into Oren in a 3rd, and then taking Oren in a 3rd for Grover Stewart in a 5th. So basically, Preston Smith for Grover Stewart in a 5th. I think I'd take that all day right now.
I don't know. I might rather have Preston Smith.
I want Preston this year, but I wouldn't want him more than that.
Yeah, he's 30, right? He's definitely on that. Yeah,
I think
production for this year, but
yeah, I think they also have a pretty decent out on him next year. So that trade looks really appealing. I don't think I would have done what Ravens did and trade extended him. So I think that's where it kind of becomes less appealing to me. But overall decent, and yeah, Grover's a fine player to trade for. Definitely if I'm
he's kind of older now too, isn't he?
He is, but he will, the indie factory of just productive older interior linemen. He'll be productive as long as he's there, and then he will no longer be productive.
Yeah, and he got suspended last year for, the drugs. So he didn't even have to work hard last year. Fewer snaps on the body.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why he was doing the drugs.
He took was it Autry's role?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's a super productive role.
No, he was a Pro Bowler or borderline Pro Bowler. Not last year, but year before. And then, last year with the suspension, he was still really productive when he played. Just didn't play as much.
Yeah. Lining up right next to DeForest Buckner is definitely a benefit.
Yeah, and getting Latu and Quiddy and Deo. They got a pretty nice line down there in the South.
That could be fun.
Honestly, most of the South has a really good line right now, thinking about it.
All right. Taylor Heineke, Keelan Saunders, bunch of 3rd, 4th, and 5ths for Sam Darnold, a 4th and a 5th. I mean, good for him for moving Darnold in that contract. There was going to be a team to buy him, and this was the team to do it, especially with him owning JJ. But I don't know. The number I had in my head for Darnold was always kind of a second value, and I'm not sure this is it.
Yeah, just when I had JJ and you and I were going back and forth around Darnold, it was always like around a late second or so of value. I thought it was a good buy for Rams, kind of a cheap price to get a starting quarterback. I mean, honestly, you could argue he's more valuable this year given the fact that we now know he will be starting the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, all three of the quarterbacks that he got from me for Purdy have increased in value since he got them.
Well, you also have
But
two
Brock
teams
Purdy's
that are
jacked now, so Brock Purdy also went up in value, right?
Yeah. I think this is a great purchase for Rams, given the predicament. I think this is a really good sell for Dolphins. But the inclusion of a 2025 fourth on both sides confuses the hell out of me because it's the Texans and the Cowboys. So it's like they basically just swapped the two worst non-playoff team picks, like in each conference.
I mean, I think there's a threshold of pieces that need to be involved in order for Rams to do a deal. So
Oh, maybe. Okay. That makes far more sense.
It definitely looks like a game of chicken between the two. Like Dolphins doesn't want to hold the points. Rams wants to have the points, but he doesn't want to pay anything for it.
Win-win. All right. Any parting thoughts?
with the last trade,
No.
Oh no, it's Bears Panthers, Poona Ford and Demondre Lenore, and a fifth for Marshawn and Chamari Connor. I mentioned too many corners in that trade, and I feel sick now.
I like Diamador. I think he's he's $9 million. Never mind.
In 2 years.
Yeah, no.
Not great, Bob.
you can
Why
just
did I-
renegotiate them.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nope.
that's a great use of a renegotiation. Why don't you actually pay your boy over there?
Snead will get his
Yeah.
due when I free up a spare contract here.
No, he's not worth it. He's not worth it. How much is this holdout?
I honestly don't know. I'm assuming just rough numbers wise, it's going to be around 7 mil, but it's fine.
Cut him.
All right. Well, that's our 2 cents. We're sticking to it.
Should we let Giants give any hot takes before we sign off?
Oh, I didn't prepare a homework assignment.
Oh, okay. All right, we're good. Bye,
That's-
everybody.
Back to the fun part. We'll probably jump into the league channel just to enable a little bit more public conversation. But thanks for listening.